When we're young, our parents tell us a bunch of fairy tales about how the world is a happy place based on love and trust and kindness. Those are all lies. The truth is that human beings are animals. We're really nasty to each other, and we have some really serious flaws. We're good at hiding this side of our nature, but if you look closely, you can see it. You're not supposed to talk about this stuff in polite company, but everyone knows it exists, and we're all curious to learn more about it. And that's what Robert Greene's book, The Laws of Human Nature, is about. The Laws of Human Nature is a book about the parts of our personalities that we don't want to talk about, that we're not proud of, and that we would rather just sweep under the rug. But they're still there, and if you ignore them, they're going to come bubbling up at the worst possible time, and they're going to destroy you. As you read, you learn how to identify these traits in yourself so that you can work on them, and in other people so that you can deal with them. People would rather feel positive emotions than negative emotions, and so they tell a lot of polite lies about how the world works rather than face the ugly truth. Think about, for example, how parents tell their kids that Santa Claus is real. The most important lies we tell are about our own personalities. We tell ourselves that we're good people and that we're rational and that we're super talented and that we're making the world a better place, and often those things aren't true. And it's really hard to confront that, and most people aren't very good at it. I'm not very good at it. I lie to myself all the time. But this is how you become a better person, is you confront these lies. It's also important to be able to see through the lies that other people tell you. Robert Greene says that everyone is always acting, we're always putting on masks and playing situational roles in life. And you must understand that the roles people are playing aren't their personalities. He gives the example of Howard Hughes, who everyone thought was this great businessman, this genius, this maverick, but actually he was a terrible businessman who ran all his companies into the ground. Robert Greene says that you have to judge people for their actions and results and not the words that they say. We also lie to ourselves about our culture and the historical era that we live in. So Dan Carlin did this hardcore history episode about public executions and how people love to go to public executions and they would travel for miles to see somebody get beheaded. And we like to think that we're better than that today, but are we really? Human nature hasn't meaningfully changed in 70,000 years at least. We're still the same people that cheered when King Louis XVI got beheaded. So what makes us think that we're actually better people today than we were 500, 1,000 years ago when the world was a lot more barbaric? For every barbaric or superstitious thing you can find in the past, you can usually find a modern equivalent. For example, Robert Greene talks about the South Sea Company, this company in England that was a total financial bubble and everyone was hysterical about it. And then the exact same thing happened in 2008 with the housing crisis. He also makes the point that cultures used to sacrifice their leaders to the tribal gods when there wasn't enough rain. They would blame the leaders that there wasn't enough rain, so their crops weren't growing, they were all dying. And they would sacrifice their leader, even though the leader had no control over the rain. And you're like, well, that's barbaric, we wouldn't do something like that today. But we do the exact same thing today. Because if the economy isn't doing well, then we vote the president out of office. You shouldn't lie to yourself about the dark aspects of human nature. You should confront them, and you should deal with them. There are 4 layers of every human being, and these 4 layers determine everything about you, from your personality to the way you interact with other people, to the things you like and dislike, etc., etc. Layer number 1 is your genes. You can't change them, they're just the coding of who you are. Layer 2 is the patterns that you pick up in childhood. So what did your parents punish you for? What did your parents reward you for? You learn those habits and they stick with you for the rest of your life. Layer number 3 is your habits. They're the behaviors that you repeat over and over again. So like, what time do you wake up every day? How hard do you work? When do you go to bed? How often do you read? How often do you watch Netflix? Who do you hang out with? Etc., etc. And then layer number 4 is the mask that you put on, right? So who do you pretend to be when everybody else is watching you? The frustrating thing is that we don't really have that much control over our personality, right? Like, it's not like there's this switch we can flip to instantly become better people. That takes work, right? You have to build new habits, you have to understand your genetics and work around them, you have to revisit childhood traumas and understand them. That's not something you can just do overnight. The good news is we can override our instincts if we try really, really hard. Psychologists have found that there's a conscious override, which basically means that you can decide not to do the thing that you instinctively or habitually want to do, right? So for example, if you smoke cigarettes, if you try really hard, you can quit smoking cigarettes. Your entire body is going to want to smoke a cigarette, but you can say, no, I'm not going to smoke cigarettes anymore, and if you try really hard, you'll stop. Becoming a better person means doing that with your personality flaws, right? So if you notice that you're a very emotional decision maker, you don't think rationally, then you have to train yourself to think rationally. Or if you're a very envious person, for example, if you notice that you get really jealous every time you see one of your friends succeed. you can train yourself to notice the feeling of envy and just kind of let go of it instead of acting in a way that sabotages your friend's success. Robert Greene calls this the lower self versus the higher self. Our lower self is all our animal instincts, all our negative self-destructive behavior patterns that sabotage us, and our higher self is our ability to not do the thing that our lower self wants to do. The first step to bringing out your higher self is to notice your lower self. If you start getting really envious, notice it. If you start getting really emotional and irrational, notice it. If you start getting really grandiose, if you start thinking that everything that you're going to do will succeed, notice it. And then once you notice those feelings, you can cognitively appraise them, right? You can say, that's wrong, I don't want to think like that, here's how I want to think instead. If you make a list of all the personality traits you have that you're not proud of, and then you consciously work to change them, you will become a better person over time. So thanks for watching Theo's Book Club. If you're new here, my name's Theo. I make brief videos like this one going over the big ideas in the books that I read so that you can learn what I learned and so you can decide, do I want to read these books for myself? If you like this video, go ahead and click the like button down there. That tells YouTube, hey, this is a good video, we should show it to more people, which I would greatly appreciate. You can also hit the subscribe button if you want to see more of these book review videos popping up in your feed. So have a great day, and until next time, try to be a little bit better of a person than you were yesterday.